2, 4, 6, 6. Stop the violence, stop the hate. Whose lives matter?
It's a hot summer day in one of the whitest communities in America, and activists waving flags that read Black Lives Matter have come to this small town. And for the most part, they're not welcome. This is Boone County, Arkansas, where the Klan has its headquarters and where the racists have already installed their snipers on the rooftops in downtown Harrison. And just around the corner from the sign that tells you where to tune in to White Pride Radio, for the family, the sign says.
I'll do this in good faith.
Aaron Clarke is worried it might get violent.
If I can get all guns to be put up. We got death threat after death threat after death threat. They said I got a rifle for you down here, monkey, all sorts of things.
Clarke says he's here to meet white people who he says don't understand the protests they see in the faraway culture that's beamed into their living rooms and onto devices in their pockets.
When I'm sitting here coming to you in a positive form, in a positive fashion, you know what I'm saying?
This was mostly his idea, and he brought burgers to go with the bullhorns, inviting people to come eat lunch.
I feel like food automatically creates a common ground, and then we can figure out more common grounds from there. But from the jump, we all have a common ground because I'm pretty sure everybody likes to eat.
But the men in trucks flying by with the Confederate flags aren't stopping. The only thing they're bringing to this barbecue are their middle fingers. This is what they used to call a sundown town, where black Americans had trouble staying alive if they were out after dark. It didn't take long before a militia showed up.
We are not Klan. We are not racist.
So why are we guys out?
I'm here to stop you from burning buildings and hurting innocent people.
We don't want that to happen. So if we can keep it out of our areas here in Arkansas, that's what we want to do.
Great question. Let's talk about that.
In the middle of all this, Clarke turns to his phone and starts a live feed on Facebook, where he tries to invite people from across the county.
Let's talk. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to meet anybody up. I'll stay down here. I'll meet up with you guys and we go get a beer or something. We can go get a beer, we go to the bar, we can sit down, we can talk, and we can be adults.
Things start looking up when Clarke learns that someone who he was hoping to meet might be coming to visit. A famous local pastor by the name of Thomas Robb.
If I can have a civil dialogue with Thomas Robb, that's what I'm definitely going to do.
74-year-old Thomas Robb is the pastor of the Christian Revival Center just outside Harrison, but he's better known as the national director of the Ku Klux Klan. He took over the job after David Duke left the position in the 1980s and is seen here in an interview with Sky News 3 years ago.
This here is our office, and we do clerical work here, membership applications.
Robb isn't just any racist, he's the most grand dragon of racists who no longer wears a hood and likes to sound like he's making sense, as he did in this interview with the Kansas City Star.
Blacks, by their nature, probably prefer being around other blacks because they can relate to them. There's always going to be some that's going to want to go and hang out with the white group. But by a whole, people prefer being around their own kind, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's real, it's natural.
It sounds like what you guys are doing is saying to people, come meet us.
Yes. Come talk to us, come meet me, come shake my hand, come see for yourself that I am not anti-American, I am not hate-filled, I am not a terrorist. I love my community, and I want the best for all of us. And Aaron and I do this because we want a better life for our children.
Exactly. And one thing that I learned about is really through conversations that I realized is that they don't really know anything about people of color. So what we want to do, and our mission is to go against the narrative. We want to come and say, exactly like you said, hey, come meet us.
The first black person to ever meet many of this area's longtime residents is this man. Kevin Charest is a retired federal forest ranger who first moved here in the 70s and says it didn't always go well. He's since joined a task force the city has set up to help repair its image.
We've got to get people to be willing to be uncomfortable. They've got to be willing to learn and find out what they don't know.
He says that communities all across this country are a lot more like Harrison than they'd like to admit with white Americans who've never really bothered to get to know many people of other races.
When I'm able to share my experiences with people, especially, now they know me, they're comfortable with me, and all of a sudden the issue of the Confederate flag comes up, and I could tell them, look, you have to understand that when I see that flag, there's a certain level of fear that exists, because growing up in New Orleans, if you saw a car coming down the street with the flag, you got out of the way. We also knew that wherever there was a lynching, that flag was present. And when people hear that stuff happen to me, it's like, wow, now it's a different meaning to them, because, well, this is Kevin, our friend. They're more willing to believe what you're saying. But either way, we have to talk. And we, as blacks, also have to be willing to listen.
Yes.
It's harder to misunderstand someone when you realize they share some of your worries and many of your goals. And they're trying to get that across in the protests in the streets. But sociologists explain that Americans of all colors are proving every day that what this Klansman said is true, that people gravitate towards their own kind.
We've actually just completed a study a few years ago in the Metro Detroit area that measured the ethnicity of people's networks.
I spoke with Christina Roosh, a researcher at Eastern Michigan University.
We specifically asked them whether or not the person that they identified as close and important to them is of the same race and or ethnicity as them. And what we found is that for both whites and blacks in America, over 95% of their networks are comprised of the same race.
When I look at the Facebook pages of some of my white friends, this person who is supportive of Black Lives Matter, I can look through sometimes years and decades of photos and not see that person standing next to anybody who looks like me. And it's stunning to me.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. I'm not surprised that when you look at Facebook posts, you tend to see it to be of the same race as the person who you're looking at, because I think there's been a lot of research to show that for the most part, people's social networks are very homogenous when it comes to race and ethnicity.
Pull out your phone right now, scroll through the pictures, and see for yourself. How many black friends do your white friends really have?
But it's not just the personal relationships. I think the larger media and societal portrayals of these groups also play a big role in how we understand people who are different than us, because they immediately shape how we're going to react to the person we're coming into contact with.
She says that black and brown Americans do this too, and will often avoid real relationships with white Americans because it can be tiring to teach their experience. Explain to me why it's more difficult for white Americans to have diverse social friendships and groups.
I think that is in large part just a result of the numbers. I mean, white Americans are still numerically the majority, and the opportunities that they have to come into contact with people who are different than them are just far fewer. They don't have to interact with people who are different than them in order to have opportunities. Whereas individuals who are of racial or ethnic minority groups, they have to.
Back at the barbecue in Harrison, Thomas Robb never showed.
Would you go over to dinner to his house?
Yes, in an instant, yes. If he invited me to dinner to his house, I would go over and sit down and eat dinner with him.
This is the head of the Klan.
Yes,
the head of the
I
Klan,
would
the
go
national
over there
director.
and I would sit down and I would eat dinner with him, and I would try to listen to what he had to say about what his organization is. Tell us, what do you feel about us? Why do you hate us? You have to make them face their own demons.
In the end, not a bullet was fired, no punches were thrown, and Clarke and his group made friends with the militia.
You brought me that Gatorade, didn't you, man? Hey, I appreciate that. You have to make them question themselves, and you can't do that if you don't talk to them.
Coming up, one woman's journey through her racist past to a moment of change.
I have to live every day with the guilt of being brought up racist.
Let him hear your voice tonight.
And the church that says God's house should look like a rainbow.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.